And welcome back to Shock's Arcade Lounge. Today we have another guest and another VTuber, and of course another wonderful friend of mine. You all know her as the Cyber Queen of Hell. She is one of the most, if anything, one of the most creative friends I've had over the many years I got to know a lot of people in this lifetime of mine. It is none other than Sinashi. Welcome, Sinashi. Before we even get started, how are you today? How are you feeling?
Oh, I'm doing good. How are you?
Hey, I'm feeling pretty good today. So, welcome to the podcast. Last time we had Kage coming in here. Basically, now we're basically sort of like doing a sort of indirect sequel. And in this case, we're not only uh, inviting one of the many residents of Cyber Hell, but instead we've invited the Queen of Cyber Hell. So, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Hey, awesome. Before we even get started, so tell me, how's everything been for you? I guess for the past couple of days.
It's been good. It's been kind of hot, but we're just chilling. I've been working on a bunch of projects, mostly animations and art, and then a bunch of streaming. Just lots of good stuff.
Ooh, awesome. Yeah, that's actually something that that's like new from what I was being aware about, like a new animation. Is it like something that's completely new, or is it something that you worked on the past before?
So, okay, I've done animation for a while, just like kind of off and on, but this is a very ambitious project that I don't even know if I'm gonna get done, but it's kind of one of those ideas that popped in my head like years ago, and then so basically what I'm doing is I'm making like a fake anime intro for my manga.
Ooh.
I don't know if I'm gonna get it done, but I'm like, I kind of want to do a thing that like showcases basically the full first arc. And I got my brother to like edit a song down to like a minute 30 so that I can have like so it's like legit. I don't know if I'm gonna get it done, but you know what? Fuck around and find out, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Oh, that reminds me, before we get any more to the questions, that's actually one of the things I want to mention. So, Sanashi is actually an independent, correct me if I'm saying this right, mangakai?
Mangaka.
A mangaka. Okay, thank you very much for
Yeah.
that. So, for those of you who probably might be wondering, wait, what does that mean? Well, it means Sanashi actually makes her own independent manga, and it is known as Desolate. And honestly, you guys should really check this out. I've already finished catching up all the chapters I've read so far, and honestly, based on what I saw, this is a really cool thing to see because I've met a lot of many individuals in my life that have done a lot of creative projects when it comes to creative writing, but in this case, this takes a lot more of a higher level, and I gotta say, this is really impressive.
Thank you. Yeah, I do the art for it and I do all the art, all the backgrounds, the characters and stuff. And we're actually a duo. I work with my oldest brother. He does the writing. He actually does all the storyboarding too. So, because that's actually what stopped me from making a manga. Was like I can't write for the life of me. So I was like, I need somebody to help me, and I actually like revamped it and stuff, and got together with my brother. So, yeah.
That's really amazing. And I'm glad that this is like a family effort because it means that you have a lot of bonds. Well, your level, or I want to say the bond that you have between you and your siblings is really strong. And coming as
Yeah.
an older brother myself, I know that that really matters a lot when. This shows that the family love is right there, and that's really amazing that you
Yeah.
guys have went super far with all of this. That's honestly
Yeah.
quite amazing.
Yeah, well, it's one of those too where like if you're close with your siblings, like my oldest brother and I share a lot of similarities with like creativity stuff. So like kind of what he's kind of the one who got me into everything because I mean, he does like music. He's like a professional musician. You know, he's played guitar for like 15, 20 years. So, and I got most of my music genes from him. And then, one day, we were talking about making like an original story. And I just kind of mentioned in passing, I was like, yeah, I kind of really wish I would have like redone my manga and done it a different way. And so, he kind of was just like, you know what? We should get together and redo it together. And, one thing led to another. And then, here we are, like 11 chapters in already.
That's amazing that 11 chapters have been into this whole thing. And honestly, I really respect your brother for that, because to me it shows the ambition, but he also shows the love of being able to go like, hey, I could have done this with anybody else, but instead I choose to do it with not only someone that's close to me by blood and by family, but also someone who has a very good high amount of imagination and creativity. So again, it's like really amazing to see that this is again a family effort and everything, and I absolutely love Desolate for where it's going on, for where it's going, the story, the
Ew.
characters. It's amazing. So kudos to you and to your brother about that.
Thank you. Yeah, I cannot wait to make more. I'm so excited.
I'm looking forward to see more too, actually.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome. So, with that basically mentioned, and I want to put a plug in, so make sure you guys really do check that out for real. Give it like literally give it a read. It's amazing. Let us actually now start with the questions.
Ooh.
Okay, so the first question that I have for you is, where did the name Sanashi came from? Where exactly, or what is the origin of that name?
Okay, this is a loaded question. So, basically, when I first started doing covers and stuff, I had a different username, and it kind of had my initials in it, and I was like a kid, so I was like, I didn't know what I was doing, so I kind of basically got rid of the name, and then I was like, well, what am I gonna use as my username? Okay, and so what do? Me as like a, I don't know, 14, 15-year-old kid in high school, like, I go over to a Japanese name list, and I'm like, I want something similar, and I want something to start with an S. So I look down this list, and I find Sheena, and I'm like, okay, I think I like that. It's kind of cool sounding. It's 2 eyes, looks cool. But I'm like, I go with it for a bit, and then I'm like, this is kind of bland, and like, it doesn't stand out, because it's a very like common Japanese name. So I'm like, you know what? Let's just fuck around, find out. Let's just put another she on the end, just because. And I kind of threw it on the wall, and it stuck, and here we are. So, yeah. And I think it kind of another part of it that's kind of cool. It doesn't work, kind of, but I kind of realized it after the fact. But she in Japanese, if you just put she there, it's the number 4, but it also means death in Japanese. So I thought that was kind of cool, and 4 is my favorite number. So I was like, ooh, this kind of worked, even though I kind of just randomly picked a freaking name off a list.
I actually do like that. The Japanese meaning for that, it means death, and for that's like, okay, that's actually kind of hardcore. I like
Yeah,
that.
it's metal sounding. I was like, ayo, I'm going with this.
And plus it fits the, the theming around, your character being the son
Yeah.
of King of Hell. So it's like, oh, that's very fitting actually. Wow.
You know what's funny? You know what's funny about that is that actually came afterwards, because my whole thing before was, if you believe it or not, when I was younger, I was obsessed with like super girly, kind of like magical girl stuff. So, and like idols and idol culture in Japan. So I actually was like, my character was super girly. I wore like dresses and stuff. And then like when I changed my name and stuff, and then just kind of progressed, it's kind of one of those things, like my character progressed as I got older. It just kind of changed, and now I'm kind of whatever I am now, right?
I get you, but no, that's really amazing. Like, actually, it's kind of like a big 180. You go from one theme, from pop idol, to all of this, to now being a completely different turnaround of the character, or your arts, and your personality with your designs and everything. So it shows like there was a lot of development from that time.
Yeah. It's like the character grew up with me, as I like to think about it like that.
Yeah, that's actually a good way to look at it, actually. Okie dokie. So, that being said, let's move on to the next question, which is, when did you first get into art?
Okay, so it's tough. So I have been doing art probably my entire life. I don't know when it started. So like, I probably was holding a crayon in my hand when I was a toddler. But it basically started when got into Pokemon as a kid. So I was obsessed with drawing Pokemon and just
Ooh.
Pokemon things. And then it kind of transitioned. Like one of my first anime I watched that I really got into was Cardcaptor Sakura. So I was obsessed with that and a bunch of magical girl stuff when I was younger. And then it kind of diverged and I got into, more shonen stuff. But I would say I started digital art in like 2013, I think. And I did traditional like exclusively up until then. And that's when I got my first drawing tablet, which was a hand-me-down for my brother. And yeah, I kind of decided to start drawing stuff for like my singing and like any kind of projects I'd work on, and then just went from there. And now I'm making manga and doing all that kind of crazy stuff.
Wow. So you've basically been dabbling into all types of mediums before. And again, I gotta
Yeah,
say, I met a lot of people who, I have to say, being respectfully honest here, I've met a lot of people who mostly focus on a singular aspect of the art medium, but from what I can
yeah,
tell, you basically go into, what if I decided to try everything at once and sort of just
yep,
open up to the ones that I basically think would work for me best? But then
yeah,
went from being just to that, and from what I can tell, it seems like okay, you ever play like the Yakuza game where it's like you have one style, but instead of okay, like Yakuza Kiwami, instead of like having just only one style, you have like multiple.
yeah. And part of it too was when I was younger, especially like when I first started posting stuff on the internet. Uh, I did art and stuff, but before I really got serious about posting and like wanting to be like an artist, like drawing artist, I did music. So I was a singer. I did singing like pretty much from like the moment I got into elementary school up until like I'm still doing singing. And I was really, really serious about it. I was like classically vocally trained. I took theater. I was like doing everything you could do under the sun for music. And one day, I realized I'm like, I want to do both things. And it's tough to balance. But I feel like especially nowadays, like with VTubing and stuff, it kind of encompasses doing all of it. So it's a good like place to put it all. And if you're a VTuber too, you can do like the covers, the singing, you can do the art, you can do like basically anything you want to do, right? So yeah.
Yeah.
And I do have other things I do, like my brother and I breed ball pythons, so that's a whole other avenue. But yeah, I'm definitely a little bit of a jack of all trades with like a bunch of other things too.
You and I come from the same cloth from this because as a theater kid as well, I basically did what I thought was necessary to learn all types of things. So for me, I basically learned how to better being an actor, and of course being learning how to do stuff with costume design, set backgrounds, music, and a few other things. But funny enough, like the difference for this was that when I graduated from high school after all of this, I initially wanted to be an actor, but then I realized that that was way too tedious, a little bit more dramatic for my taste. So being a YouTuber kind of feels more comfortable because, as you mentioned, and I think Age mentioned this before, but being an independent creator means you get to have your own freedom to create whatever you want, change whatever you want, and honestly, that feels a lot more nicer than just being a part of something and you're kind of like somewhat a bit forced to work with what you have to do over what you
Absolutely.
prefer to do.
Yeah, I agree with you wholeheartedly. That's my biggest thing is I kind of get it from my mom, but I'm very much like, when it comes to projects and stuff, I'm very much of like control freakish, where I'm like, I'm gonna do this, I gotta do this, and I don't like relying too much on other people being like, okay, we're gonna get this done, because a lot of times in the past I've worked with people, and when I'm not the like leader or with a group of people where they're like, yeah, let's all do this, it tends to be where, everyone's really excited with an idea and then it just kind of pitters out and you're like the only one doing the thing. So that's why I like when you're like your own boss, because it's like, oh, you can do whatever you want, you set your own deadlines, your own timelines, right? So anyway, it just
Yeah,
works out much better.
I agree because when I used to have my team back then when we were like really much into Killer Instinct, I was always the one that really initiated the idea where we basically
uh,
did like compilations and everything, and everybody was like super comfortable with reaching out like, "Oh, hey, I have this done. What do you think?" And I said, "I'm just glad you just send this to me." I thought that was gonna take you like 3 days and be like, "Nah,
Oh
that."
yeah.
It's
I
like,
definitely know that feeling. I did like covers and like we did like collabs. They had this thing called chorus battles because I was in like back early 2010s or so. There was like a community that basically merged and I feel like basically became the VTuber community. It's called Utai Days. And basically what that was it was people who did at first it was Vocaloid covers. And then it kind of merged into doing like anime covers and it also kind of divulged into like people who are doing voice acting, which is I did that as well. And it kind of was like we would do these chorus battles, like I'd say, and you'd get together a bunch of people, and it was basically like a big tournament, and people would go at each other with like, oh, we're gonna do this cover and go against this other group that's doing a different cover, and there would be like judges and stuff, and we'd do these big projects, but it always get to the point where it's like because Kage and I did them together, it'd usually be like, oh, we would just do our part, and then we're like crickets with the rest of the group, and we're like, well, I guess we're pulling the weight, huh? You know what I mean?
wow. Now, I gotta admit, I didn't even think there was like competition for stuff like that. That's
Yeah,
actually
it was
impressive.
crazy. It's not really a thing anymore, but like for a short period of time, I'd say it was around the like 2012 to like it started dying off at like the 2016 era because that's when we kind of started moving into like doing the VTubers and stuff. But yeah, it was fairly big. It was fairly big. I think part of it too was around that time. That was when uh there were like English cover artists doing like English covers of like Japanese songs. One of the big ones was like I think Jubiphonic, Amelie, and so a lot of these people kind of they went from that group to doing like the VTubing. So it's strange because a lot of people don't really even know about that group. So it's interesting. It's interesting.
Yeah, and before we get to the next question, I do remember that I saw a couple of your music covers, specifically Snake Eater, and I think the one before that was like another Japanese song where your character was just like basically running, mid running, but then was basically being blown away by the wind and everything.
Yeah.
Oh man, I gotta say again, you truly are giving the phrase "jack of all trades" and everything. Because I gotta say, that's really impressive that you've basically have done a lot of creativity since the first time we
Oh.
interacted with each other and everything.
Yeah. Yeah, I've been kind of dabbling too because I kind of got into like, well, what started it was I was asking my brother, my younger brother, to edit my YouTube videos, and he isn't the most reliable source sometimes because he forgets a lot. So then I was like, you know what, screw it, I'm gonna start video editing, and that kind of opened the avenue of like, you know what, I really like making like music videos, and I've always kind of wanted to do that, so that kind of spurred me on making covers again, and then now I'm working on animation, so yeah.
That's really impressive. And again, it shows that you're willing to take a lot of it's like if someone asked you to do a challenge, like a near impossible challenge, you just said, "I don't care if it's difficult. I can't read. I'll just go ahead and do it."
Yep, yeah. Well, hey, I mean, the biggest thing about life is, the best thing, one of the best traits about being a human is we can learn, and learning is an invaluable tool to us. So, you never stop
Absolutely.
learning.
Oh yeah, that's true. And then the phrase "adapt and overcome" definitely suits a lot of what most creatives, especially for
Absolutely.
for many of us, if anything, like we basically see what's new to us as a challenge, and we take it on head
Yes.
on. And I think again that's like one of the most admirable qualities that all of us as human beings and as creators can definitely share upon and interact with each other, which greatly builds both bond and a deeper understanding of what true growth and, I would say, a continental creative grind is like.
Oh yeah, and I always say this to people that ask me about art. They're like, "How do you get so good? How do you do this or that?" Or they ask me questions. You know, you're not gonna grow unless you challenge yourself. That is the biggest thing about being a content creator, creating anything is you gotta challenge yourself. Otherwise, you're gonna be stuck in that one box the whole time. You know
That
what I
is
mean?
true. Yeah, that's true. That's essentially like if you need to learn a new life skill but you're not too sure of it, at least give it a shot because it's better than
Yep.
absolutely not trying at all.
Oh yeah, for sure. Plus, you never know. You never know. You might try something and think before you try it, like, oh, there's no way I'm gonna like this. This is terrible. And then you try it and you're like, wait a minute. I really like this. Perfect example. I hated Souls games. I absolutely hated them. I would never play them in a million years. Like, I'd say 2020 or 2021. Along comes Elden Ring. Here I am. I'm still playing it. It's like the only thing I'm playing right now because I'm so obsessed. Don't knock it till you try it, right?
That's true. I mean, for me, I'm like, I guess in my particular case, I never got into FPSs until like a couple were introduced by, uh, I want to say in the previous times, like my cousin would introduce me to Call of Duty because it was like these zombie elimination things, and I would say
Yeah.
an Overwatch was a thing and vice versa. But it's like, I never tried out most of these games until like, you know what? I'm I'm like I'm not obsessed as compared to fighting games. That's already a given truth. But Div gave these other games a try. But I will say I do miss
Yeah.
Pokemon. I do miss
I
Pokemon.
Oh my god, me too. I love Pokemon so much.
Yeah. Okay, now moving on to the next question. When did you actually first debut as a VTuber?
Oh, I didn't exactly like debut when I first made my model. I actually went looking this morning. I actually made my first model in like 2020 or something, or 2019. And I dabbled a bunch. I did like a live 2D model, and then I didn't actually start using a model until I messed with this program called Vroid. And so I used a Vroid model, which is like a 3D model that you can make and customize. I used it from like 2020 on, and then I decided to make like a live 2D one, which is very tough, and I struggled with it because when I first made my models, the program was all in Japanese, so I was like, what am I doing? I cannot read Japanese. What the heck? And yeah, so I guess I would say that's when I first became a VTuber, because I did face cam streaming for like a good year or two before. And then I did like my first official debut back like last year. Was it I think that was last year. Yeah, and that was like when I had my first full body model, and I actually had like a bunch of models in draft that I'd fully finished, and then I finally made that one, and then I made my new model recently. So yeah.
Yeah, and all of them look extremely well made, and they look great too.
Ew, I freaking love making those things. They're really fun.
That's really cool. And honestly, you really do good work on the models that you make, and like you take a lot of time into like how you built them and how you like made them, even like adding on like the accessories, the dress, I want to say even like the hairstyles and detailing, and not just
Yeah.
from what I can also tell, it's not just yours but also Wakage's as well.
Yeah, that's a big part of it, is the rigging, which I tried to do it, but I just can't wrap my head around it. It's really tough. I can do the animation in the program, but I mostly like doing the models, because the only way I can equate it, the only thing I can equate it to that I like to think of it as, is making live 2D models it feels the same way as like building a Lego set to me. If that makes sense. That's
Oh.
what it feels like. Yeah, it's a weird thing to like equate it to, but I always think about it. I'm like, yeah, you gotta put all these parts together and they move a certain way, and you gotta make sure they're, cut or placed a certain way, and so it can like function and stuff, right?
Yeah, I understand that though. I know where you're coming from that. It's like a building structure you follow through a procedure.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's really good. Okay. Now, next one is, I think we talked about this, but I guess it's sort of like a follow-up, but where did the
Yeah.
idea of creating independent manga came from? Or more or less, how did Desolate originated as?
Yeah, so it's actually quite deep, the lore for making Decog. So originally, when I was, I would say this is like a big point in my life, was when I was in like middle school, high school. So like it started around 2013, 2014, I'd say. Tokyo Ghoul came out, the anime, and my friend Vivi and I watched it, and I got really into it, and it kind of spurred me on. I was like, I've always kind of wanted to make a story or a manga, and so I started with the project. It was originally called Desolate Project, and I had a bunch of characters that I made as a kid, and I was like, I I like this. I really want to do something with it, but I never had like the motivation to do it. So, you know, I at some point decided, I would say this is around like 2018, I decided to scrap all the characters, and I actually used my original character, my first original character I ever made, which is now Sophia, and she's pretty much just about the same kind of character and whatnot, but I made the first original like prototype in like 2019. I made like I went back and looked at it. I actually didn't realize that I made like an entire chapter that was like fully sketched out and finished a couple pages. Didn't ever use that, and that never got seen. I went ahead and fast forward a few months, early 2020, I decided to make it. It was called Desolate it was basically Desolate Children of Gaia. It was Desolate Gaia's Children. That's what it was called. And that was basically the big prototype. I actually did like 6 whole entire chapters of it, which is insane. And then fast forward 2022, that's when I decided to scrap the entirety, all of those 6 chapters. I hated it. It was terrible. I didn't like it. I'm not good at writing, so the writing was really bad, and I didn't really know how to make a manga exactly. So yeah, I did like months of work. I scrapped it, talked to my brother. I was like, please help me. I want to make this a reality. So then I talked to him, and we're like, screw it. Here we go. We make the manga. And well, basically, I feel like what really hit too was around 2018, 2019. That was when I really got into, especially like, it was like the 2016 to 2019 era. That's when I first got into like JoJo, Berserk, and I read 20th Century Boys by Naoki Urasawa, and those like, that's like, I feel like what changed. That was like the big changing point in my life, and I like changed all my inspirations. I went from liking, like I said, like cutesy idol stuff. I wanted to make like something kind of, cutesy and whatnot, and then that came around, and I was like, you know what, I think I want to make something like this, something like Berserk or something like Dragon Ball, something that's like, it's got that like, oh, we're gonna do like crazy fights and like crazy like dark fantasy, dark cyber stuff, and it kind of became what it is now. And we have a lot of it planned. When I say we have a lot of it planned, we have like almost to like the ending planned. We don't have the end planned, but we have a lot of stuff planned for this manga. So
yeah, because like
crazy.
Because based on like the action scenes and everything that I saw from the chapters, I was like, dang, you do good work on what I saw so far. And
thank you.
Which kind of basically answers the next question that I was gonna ask, like what inspiration helps when it comes to making art, or well, making the manga. You mentioned, Berserk, JoJo, Dragon Ball. Like there was a lot that basically go in there.
Yeah, honestly, like speaking for like other people too, the best thing you can do is like, for me, it's just consume media. Like, especially with like, if you're an artist too, and you're stumped on what you want to do and like how to improve, the best thing you can do is consume media, because you probably haven't consumed enough to make your ideas. So, if I'm like, I don't know what I want to do, I'm not inspired feeling, which is very rare because I'm constantly watching stuff and doing stuff, I'll be like, you know what? If I'm down in the dumps, I'm not sure what I want to do, let me go watch either something new I've never seen or something I really used to love. For example, recently, I'm actually been bugged by my brother to watch it because we only watch a few episodes, but recently, what kind of spurred it on is I've been watching this channel called Iwu Crew for like, God, I think like a year or two now. Or it's like a year. And it's basically like murder mystery, like real life crime cases, which I'm really into nowadays. And I got into that, and then my brother is like, "We should watch The Sopranos and Breaking Bad," and I just started watching those, and that's kind of like new inspiration for me. And part of that too is I started playing Yakuza, and I'm like, "Whoa, my God, I really like this stuff." And you know, yeah, that's for me. For me, it's like playing games, reading manga, watching shows, and another one that's kind of really weird. I don't know how to explain this. It's probably because I'm a musician, musically inclined. Is sometimes when I hear a song, if I hear a song and it like resonates with me, it like clicks something in my brain, and I'm like, oh, I gotta draw something. I have to draw something because this song, like, it like, it's a really weird thing. I don't know how to explain this, but like, I'm sure some other people have had this before. It's like you hear a song, and I can legitimately sometimes see like animated sequences in my head. It's crazy. I'm like,
Yeah,
whoa, I gotta do something with this. Like, hear a song that I'm obsessed with, and I'll be like, I can see an animated like battle with this. Like, no joke. It's crazy. It's so
yeah.
fun.
I was gonna say, like, I know what that is. Like, I used to have some songs that I would like say listen to, and I would imagine like it's like a visual imagery of what that feeling that carries over to your imagination. It's like a visual imaginary
Yes.
sequence. So it's like for me, like I'm thinking of a character fighting some guy on a thunderstorm, but then you hear like a synth 80s kind of guitar, and they're like fighting in the streets, like
Yeah. Oh yeah.
and then it's like, oh yeah, I could totally see this. So I'm like, yeah, I know where you're coming from because
Yeah, yeah.
that has basically, ironically, even though I do YouTube videos and stuff like that, but when it comes to some of my editing projects, I would think of the best song to put into the videos, and I'll just be like, this is exactly what I imagined. I love it.
Yeah, that's I've been getting that a lot lately, and I think that's part of the reason why I started getting into like video editing too. Was I would like edit clips, and I'm like, this song fits perfectly. It's fucking goofy. You know what I mean? It's like you hear something, and it's like, this works. This is it, bro. Like, it's wild because it's the same feeling as like, because I feel like video editing, kind of, it really is its own creative, like, output too. Like, it's
It really
definitely another
is.
It definitely is. And you know, when I was younger, especially before, because I despise doing anything technical, I still do. I didn't look at it that way. But then when I really started getting into it recently, I'm like, this is the same thing. It's also very creative because, you know, you're putting stuff together. You got to know what fits, and you definitely have to be inspired to do video editing. For sure, for sure.
I agree because like during the years I was like my own editor, and I was like my own person. Like I had to learn everything on the fly from the get-go, so I had to like work what I got, and then that's basically how amazing 12 years later I'm still amazed that people would actually watch the things that I would do, and I'll just be like, hey, don't cut yourself short. Like you put the time and the effort to all of this. Like you know that your fruits of your labor truly went somewhere. So I can imagine you say the same thing to yourself too when you make like a clip or an art, or even just when you're working on a project, you just go to
Like,
yourself like I worked my ass off with this.
yeah, absolutely. And then like looking back over your journey too, like comparing something you did like years ago to something you did now. I feel like that's especially on the inspiration topic, a lot of people fall victim to looking at other people's content, and they're like, man, I'm just not good enough, or I'm not like them. And if I'm being honest, I get that occasionally, but I've actually conditioned myself to try not to be like that as much, because you know what's even better than that is comparing yourself to your past self. That is the best way to gauge yourself with like your growth and things,
I
because
agree.
you are your own competitor. Like, you should be competing against yourself so you get better. It's just how it works. It works so much better. It's a better mentality to have. You will do more stuff if you think that way. If you can figure out a way to get yourself to think that way, and trust me, it's extremely hard. I 100% feel I have like debilitating anxiety, so trying to get yourself to think that way is very hard. But if you can get yourself to think that way, it is like you're on like a whole different field. You can get stuff done like really easily if you think that way.
Oh, absolutely. And coming from someone that's always been like a wallflower, or basically like a person that you don't really see much until like, oh wow, they start to do things. Like all the times that I've basically been doing this creative, and even before then, I never really explored much anything. And then looking back
Yeah.
now, it's like I've taken a big step from the day I said, no, I'm tired of, just basically being seen as nothing, so I want to be something. Then I reflect on how much I've been through, how much of the hardships, and even like, the doubts and the fears. And I go to myself, see, I had a lot of experiences that helped me carry throughout my entire life to make me feel that, you know what, you're you defeated your previous challenges and your obstacles, and you've overcome what you thought you were going to not live around with, or at least you got rid of like the unnecessary, I want to say, the unnecessary bulk of uncertainty. That right now you're just, you can only just get better. You're not gonna go back, or you're not gonna
Yeah.
take 2 steps back. You're just improving day by day, and I think that's
Yeah.
like the beautiful thing about it. It's like you're right, like you're constantly fighting against every second against yourself, not in a bad way, but just more like, hey, i
Yeah.
did this I did this years ago, but I can do it much more better now, and I have.
Absolutely. Yeah,
So it
yeah. And part of it too is like part of it, it definitely is like your mentality and how you look at things, because for me, whenever I have something really really bad happen in my life, and believe me, the last couple of years have been ridiculous to say the least. What it does to me is you really, like I said, you really have to work to get to this kind of mentality. You really do. But the way I look at stuff now is when something really negative happens, this is just it's a weird way of thinking. I'll tell you what I equate it to in a second. Is like whenever something really negative happens, rather than like sitting around and like being like emanating and like brumating, what is, I can't think of the word, like, like sitting and dwelling on those dark feelings,
Oh, like
rather than doing
contemplating
that,
it. Yeah.
yeah, contemplating, yeah, rather than doing that, nowadays, this, I mean, I pretty much have always been like this, but it got better as I got older, because I started like realizing how to deal with it. Is like when you deal with that kind of stuff, you have to figure out how to cope with it. And my way of working with that kind of stuff is, rather than sitting there like upset about how something is, I'm like, you know what? Let's just go work on some projects. And so, I'll
Mm.
just sit there and I'm just like focused, and it really does help. And I do tell people that maybe like they're going through something tough and they don't have like, another hobby outside of like working their like 9 to 5 job, because like, yeah, that's a lot of work, is like finding an outlet to like put your feelings in. Because for me it's art, and I do art already because I love it, but it helps, it really does, because it's like any kind of emotion, you can just slap it on a paper or like on a drawing tablet, whatever. If you're doing anything else, music, knitting, anything like that, you can just put all your focus into that, and I trust me, it helps like tenfold. And writing too, like anything like that, it's a really good way to express yourself, and it helps you get through stuff, like, for sure.
Yeah, I do agree, because during the times that I had to go through some hard times, like I took, um, well, from my perspective, I took a personal vacation to my father's home country, and I had to rediscover myself. Why did I love this in the
Mhm.
first place? What made me be me in the first place? And over
Yeah.
time, I've learned that, I have to really reestablish the fact that I am the person that has to make myself happy. Everything else comes
Yes.
in full circle, full agreement, and of course,
Mhm.
full understanding of your feelings, your time and your effort towards all the things. Because as I said, hardships come and buy, but sometimes most of them can be coming from family, it can come from
Yeah.
previous relationships, things like that. And it often makes you realize that, you know what, maybe at the end, the people that weren't supposed to be around for you, or maybe, previous work experiences, or in my case, previous I want to say previous experiences are just meant for you to have a canon event for you to say, hey, listen, this was here to help you build to this point,
Yes.
but now you gotta move forward from it. And that's what I did.
Yes.
I moved forward from it, and I'm like
Yeah.
way happier, honestly, because I'm like,
Yeah.
I've done a lot
And
since then.
And you know, you don't ever know. You never know what's around the corner, and you never know if you never know if a negative experience is going to turn into a positive, because it 100% can. You never know until after the fact, and that's why, you got to look at life differently sometimes. Like, just, add a little more positivity and stuff, because believe me, it really does help. Trust me. This is coming from someone, believe it or not, that used to be extremely negative. Like, it was bad, and 180, bro. It truly helps.
I'm not gonna lie. I never couldn't really imagine you as a negative person, but like a truly deeper negative person. But I do take value in the fact that I can believe that, because I do also know what it's like to really be fully negative, because I never really interacted with anybody until like legit after, like, what, how many years after high school, like the whole
God,
thing.
same here. Same here. I was the same exact way. I legitimately, when I was in high school, when I was in school, I was literally that one kid that, like, did not talk. Like, I didn't talk. I just was nose down working on art. I was like, I hate being around people. Blah, I don't want to talk to people.
Oh man, I was more like, can I just go back to my homework and just be done so I can go home and
Yes,
play my games?
exactly. Yeah, so you can go home and do your own thing. Play games, do art. That was always the same here. Same
Oh
here.
my gosh. Oh
Uh,
man, the familiarity is there.
oh, yeah.
Okay. Okay, I guess you sort of answered this other one, but what does art really mean to you? Well, a little bit, but I would like to know from the deepest perspective you can give. What does art really do
Yeah.
mean to you?
So, art without, art is basically everything to me. Like, it's hard to describe to people, but for me, I can't go a day without drawing. Like, I physically cannot. It's like something ingrained in me. I have to either be drawing or singing. It's like I said, it's always an outlet for me, but I also just, I love doing it that much because I've always done it. I've literally done it from day one. Like, ask any of my family members. They have funny stories about it, trust me. I'll probably tell you about them later. But, I honestly don't know what I would be doing without art. I mean, if I'm being real. And honestly, everything that I'm into is very interconnected. Well, I take that back. If I wasn't into art or music, it probably would be something animal related, because like I said, the other thing I do is, like, I breed ball pythons with my brother. But that kind of, it's funny because that kind of goes back into the art stuff, because I draw snakes a lot because I love them. And, it's like a way, like I said, to output my feelings, my emotions. And, art is literally, it can be anything. It's literally everywhere. You see it in the form of, like, fashion, movies, games, paintings. It's nature, like everything. Like I said, with the ball pythons, I mean, animals are art too. I mean, they're beautiful creatures. They can be their own art. You can make them look crazy. Um, but like I said, yeah, it's definitely a outlet to input any feelings, and it definitely helps. It's definitely helped me overcome some of my issues, like having ADHD. I literally did not know that I had ADHD until I was like a full-grown ass adult, and honestly, it actually helped me develop coping mechanisms with that, because I've always been like very focused on, like, okay, if it's with art, it's like I gotta do this thing. If I don't do this thing, I legitimately will beat myself up about it, and I do not recommend being like that, because it's really unhealthy. But that's just how it works with me. I'm like, I gotta do this thing, otherwise I can't do this other thing. Like, my brain, the way it works is I'm like, I have to finish this art piece, and then I can go play Elden Ring. Like, that is how my brain works. It's so silly. I'm like, I will treat myself to 5 minutes of Mesmer.
Yeah, that's like your current
Uh,
for the moment with Elden Ring.
yeah, oh yeah, it's definitely been something for a while.
No, but I'm really glad to hear that for you, art is not just, a form of expression. It's actually your livelihood. It's your way to build yourself up to truly, build not just yourself as a personality, but it's basically your living essence as both artist and as an individual. So it's
Yeah,
wonderful how
yeah.
you describe that, animals are like, they can be art too. Like I've seen sometimes, like, give an example. I see sometimes people would make art of snakes look like scary or, hazardly
Yeah,
dangerous. But then sometimes you would
absolutely.
see people go, "Oh no, look, it's a cute little snake. It's so small and
Yeah.
adorable." Like you
You know
could
what's
literally
funny?
go ahead.
You know what's funny is I feel like that's part of the reason why people are so scared of snakes is actually because so many people in art depict them as scary. And honestly, I think part of it is they have never been around like a pet, like a type of snake you can have as a pet. Because I'm not joking when I say ball pythons. I've actually, when I was younger and I had my friends come over from school, we would some of them were so terrified of snakes they would like actually cry. But the second we like gave them one to like hold like with someone there and show them, they like overcame their fears because they'd never been around an actual snake before, and all they'd ever heard is, oh, they're scary, they're gonna bite you. And like, like I said, media and especially art, they depict snakes as like really scary and stuff. But nowadays it's kind of opened up because a lot of people are starting to own them a lot more, especially ball pythons. And they're actually really goofy, silly little guys. They're absolute goobers.
I can believe that because I've seen like a bunch of snakes here in the, where I am, what I like to call it Metro City. Like I would see one in the street, one in the big freaking bridge, and then I'm like, dang. And they would like
Ah,
showcase them, and then would be like, hey, you want to see my snake pet snake? To it's like $5 or something if you want it, or it's like, or tips are well appreciated. But
ah,
mind you, this is like during like summer days and stuff like that. But yeah, like it's again a proven fact that art to a person is not just, oh, it's just a skill or it's some kind of like hobby. No, like
yeah.
I kind of hate that people often say this. Art is not just a hobby. It is
It
literally
isn't.
part of a person's living soul and their essence.
Yes,
Because look at it this way: if we didn't have artists, we wouldn't be able to have creative TV shows, animated,
exactly.
video games, and everything like that. Like people tend to kind of forget that art is
Yeah,
basically super
they like
essential in this life of ours.
yeah, they take it for granted because, they probably haven't tried it themselves, which I mean not everyone's gotta try everything. Or like, they don't understand how it is, and that's okay. But, sometimes you have to take a step back and realize like how much people put into it, and it's not just because like, you know, oh, I'm just doing it for money. And like, trust me. Trust me when I say this, artists are not doing it for money. I can tell you right now,
That's
artists I've ever met, we're masochists. Like for better words, that's what we are. Like you gotta have a special there is a special brain there. I don't know what you call it, but your brain is definitely wired a different way if you're an artist.
yeah, that and the endurance to take it all in because, geez,
Yeah.
like I mean, I'm not an artist myself, like the way you do and everything, but I have to respect that that takes a good amount of years and grinding just to even then I'm guessing you're still grinding even more to improve your skill.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. I'm constantly grinding, and like I said before, it's like you're building craft. So the way it works is there is a lot of people, they think of art and skills like there is an end goal, and I don't think like that because the the part that you really need to focus on is building a skill. This goes for literally anything, literally any skill. Is the part that's most important is the journey. It's never the end goal, because if you're already satisfied with where you're at, you're never gonna improve. And you know, a good example is, you can be a absolute legend. You can be an absolute legend. People think you're incredible. Listen, my mom says this. She says this example all the time. I say it because it's a perfect example. Luciano Pavarotti, incredible, amazing, very skilled opera singer. He did not stop taking voice lessons till the day he died, because you know why? It's never about, oh, I'm already this good. Look at me. I'm Luciano Pavarotti. Look, everybody knows who I am. No, it's about improving that craft. He never stopped because there is no end goal. Like I said, it's the journey. That's what makes it so fun, beautiful, great. That's how it works. That's how building skills works, right?
Absolutely. And quoted by the famous American philosopher Ralph Waldo Emerson, it is not the destination, it is the journey.
Exactly. Thank you. Round of applause for that one. That's so true.
You're welcome. Like I just remembered I actually funny enough that quote I ended up discovering when I was watching a college humor video where Mario was just trying to like going to speedrun all the things to the whole castles, and then Bowser goes, "The journey is the destination," and then he goes something like Deepak Chopra, and I'm like, "What?" Oh, and then I look it up in the meaning, and I'm like, "Oh wow, that's actually really deep and profound."
Yeah.
But mind you, even then, that has a valuable meaning because for myself, like even as a creative and even as a fighting game guy or whatever, I'm not gonna stop learning something new, or I'm not going to stop where I am now just because it's a
Exactly.
compliment. I feel like I peaked. Look, I could be doing this until like I'm 82 or 8 or
Same.
97,
Same. Yes.
and I still would be doing the same thing, and people would be like, "Aren't you old for this?" You're never old for anything.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, you're never
I
too
see
old, never too old to learn a new skill, never too old to keep doing something. Don't ever let
exactly,
that be a thing. Like, legit. It's
exactly.
so true.
Exactly, and I believe that's the thing that we both can attest that literally you can never stop, or you can never truly say you're really finished with what you love to do.
Yes. And, I think it kind of ties into, like, your next question is, like, you know, even if, like, let's be real. I mean, I've been streaming for, like, God, like, 6, 7 years. And, I've been doing this a long time. Even if I was still sitting at, like, there's only, like, one person in my chat and, one person there, I don't care, like, where I'm at. I'd still be doing it. I'm not doing it for other people. I'm doing it for me. Like, a lot of people don't understand that. It's like, I'm doing it for me because I like doing it? I'm not doing this for,
Yeah,
like, yeah, here we go, guys. I'm going to be like, whatever. That it's like, I'd like to be at that place. I'd like to, have a lot more than I'm at. But that's not the point. That's not why I'm doing it, right?
yeah, like that's like like I guess like the question is being where do you see yourself in the future? Like moving with that, it's like yeah, like I agree because there have been sometimes people in my life that constantly tells me, "Oh, you're just doing this to get a check mark or to have like
I
a big
feel
following."
you.
I'm like, bro, I'm not doing this for the long run. Like, no, I'm not doing this for like,
Oh,
for this thing or not. Like, I'm just doing this because I'm
yeah,
just having fun with it. Like, I could have
exactly.
like I have like sometimes like random voice actors, like famous ones, mind you, that actually just like what I like, and I'm like, oh, okay, that's kind of nice of you
Yeah,
to pop by.
yeah.
Or I make a video about a very specific thing, and be real with me. You ever get like agitated? Well, this is a me in a level, but like you ever get agitated when someone says, "Oh, the things you do is so repetitive. I could do the same thing on a different setting and blah blah blah." And
Oh
I'm like,
my God.
no, it's not the same. It's like, listen, for fighting games, it's like a continuous game of rock, paper, scissors, or chess. Like, I'm not gonna do the same
Yes.
moves in the same opponent against a different opponent. Like, the
I
opponent is
know,
gonna
right?
do something completely different. Like,
So true. Yes. And that's like that with like a bunch of games. It's like why am I still playing Elden Ring? It's like, bro, you can play the game and it's gonna be different like every time. You start with a different weapon, different thing. Like that's just how some games are. That's why I love games like that. It's the same with Monster Hunter. It's the same with fighting games too. It's like, it's gonna be different every time, right? Like
exactly, because you're not doing the same thing over and over. You're not doing the same, the same pattern, the same,
yeah.
loadout. It's like you're doing a completely different thing every time, and that's what make people like. This is a good friend of mine, Jeff, would tell me. Like that's the beauty of fighting games. Like you're not going to run out of content because everybody is legit doing the different thing. Like you can get perfected, or you can perfect them. Or you can
Oh
get a
yeah.
close one, or they can get a close one. There is no
Yeah.
guarantee that it's going to be the same thing, and that's why when people see perfect KOs and they see you do it a lot, it means, oh shoot, you know what you're doing. But sometimes, crazy things could happen, and the
Yeah.
same thing could be for any games like Monster Hunter. Like you're not gonna fight the same monster with the same loadout. You're gonna have a different palico,
It's
a different, different
yeah, and like
companion, different
the
teammates.
same thing. The same thing too. You never know how the monster's gonna act. They're same with Elden Ring. Like, you never know if the monster's just gonna randomly be like, okay, I'm just gonna act like a total idiot this run, and you're like, what are they doing? They're totally different this time. Like, it happens. Like, and you know, it's the same thing with art too. It's like it's not gonna be the same every time. Like, you could be drawing something and it's working swimmingly. It's going swimmingly. It's perfect, and everything's going the way you want. Literally, a couple hours later, the next day, you're trying to draw, and I'm like, I cannot draw this one circle. I've been sitting here drawing this one freaking circle for like 3 hours. That's the beauty of it, though. You never know how it's gonna go, right? Like,
Exactly. Like one day you're not. It's not like every single day you're gonna do the same thing. Where like, okay, for example, not every day I'm going to be able to drink milk for breakfast instead of have hot chocolate or juice
yeah,
or water. Or instead of having chicken every single day, I'm gonna have seafood. I'm gonna have
yeah.
tacos. I'm gonna have a pizza. I'm gonna have a hamburger. I am literally doing so many different variety of things so that when people come to tell me like, "Oh, you didn't do this right," or "You're being repetitive," bro, maybe it's because you're thinking of the fact that it's the same people who love to see what I do, or maybe because it's not happening to your benefit or something.
Yeah, or maybe it's just not for you, you know? Like, that's the other
Ex-
thing is a lot of people, they don't realize it's like, I really don't like this. Well, why are you watching it then?
Exactly. Or it's like, you know, like there is a thing where if you don't like what I do, you can kindly look at something else. I may
Exactly.
not be your guy. I may not be your guy, or I may not be the content creator you're seeking for.
Yeah.
At least to me, it just tells me, hey, you're just a guy that doesn't like my stuff. It's okay. The
Yep.
door's out the other way. Make sure you make sure you close the door and don't slam it.
Yeah, oh yeah, and I know what you mean. I know what you mean. And you know, some people are a little more vocal about how much they hate your stuff, and it's like, I honestly, I don't let it get to me because it's like, well, what is that supposed to mean to me? Like, you know what I mean? Like, you're just some random dude. If you don't like it, like, you don't have to waste your time commenting, you know?
Yeah, like funny enough, this reminds me of something like not too long ago. I had a guy who loves my Cody videos, but he hated that my icons and my quote, my name was in the video. And then I go to myself, okay, where have I seen
Hey,
this?
buddy.
So I looked
All
into
right,
the
buddy.
channel and I realized that the reason that he said that was because he didn't make his own videos. He steals other videos
There
from a
you
very specific
go.
thing. And I go, oh, so that's why you hate my stuff. It's because
Yeah,
you can't
that's
benefit from
why.
out of it. And let me tell you one thing. Little advice to anybody who does any content creation from the beginning to the end. Do not be ashamed to put multiple stuff that says, hey, this is my thing, because
Yep.
one time
Oh,
ago
yeah.
I had a run-in with someone on Instagram, and I think I had mentioned this story before, but there was a guy in Instagram that was basically taking whatever he found on YouTube, and he was from Australia, mind you, because he apparently had that in the stories. Because I was like, where the heck are you coming from? Like, all I asked was, hey, can you put credit to me and the
Yeah.
artist that at the time worked with me? But instead he called me, oh, I'm delusional, I'm crazy, why shouldn't I, why you didn't want to post this thing if I'm not posting it? Bro, I'm posting this on my channel. You're just some random dude who's even posting no originality. And he looks like one of those people that looks like he likes to work at the gym but has no idea how to actually interact with people. Oh, and
My
then he blocks me,
God.
and I'm like, nah, man. So that was the day that I realized, you know what? I don't care if people get mad. I'm making, that's why I'm glad, thanks to you,
Yeah.
you made the logo and the icons and everything. Like, again,
Uh,
like, hang on, I'm gonna see if I can find a way to put this up in the video, but look at these icons here. Like, look at this. Like, you see how many of these things are right here? Like, these are all amazing. And the name icon. See, I make this so that, let me be real, one of them is to show appreciation to the artist. The other thing is to, show, hey, this is what my character or my OC is like. But another thing is that, hey, yo, Are you Shock Brawler? Are you doing the
Yeah.
Hadouken, the Tatsumaki? Are you doing this? Because if you really wish to try to take this out, guess what? You can. Because I'm gonna do another rendering within the rendering of this rendering while I render on this render. You're not gonna remove 5
My
pasted
God.
layers on the same position of this thing just so you can take it out. And believe me, one of my closest friends told me that's a thing. And I'm like, well, then I'll just do
My
this 5 times.
God.
I don't care. I will do this 5 times.
Renderception. Render freaking-ception. I know the feel. I know the feel. That's me with my freaking watermarks. I'm like, you know what? Fuck around. I'm putting this everywhere. You ain't getting it for nothing, bro.
Exactly. See, you get that. Oh, man.
Oh, man.
Oh, wow. Yeah, you get the idea what I'm dealing with, but
Oh, yeah.
oh, man. Well, that is all that I have for today's question for you, Sanashi. Honestly, I really
Ooh.
had a fun time with these interactions that we had, and I really love the energy that you brought into all of this. So it's intoxicating and honestly inspiring in a way.
I know. Yeah, it's so fun. I could go on. God, you don't want to get me on these things because I could sit here and I'd talk your ear off for like hours. Like,
Don't worry, I'm cool with that. Just like I think that's the thing. Like you have a lot to share, and honestly, there's gonna be like, okay, guys. I mean, if you haven't seen this other video that me, Kage, and Sanashi did with Fall Guys, imagine the rest of the stuff that we're all gonna do. And it's not just with that's not with just with she. We got like a lot of things coming up.
yeah,
But
you got a whole crew over here.
oh man, like that's actually funny. I kid you not, like off the record, I can't believe that after so many years of like, again, so much has happened. I ended up realizing that I have a lot of good people that I really like chatting and interacting with, to the point where it
Yeah.
becomes like a big group of like it's like Spider-Man and the Amazing Friends. I'm like,
Yeah. You know,
it's
the
like
same
that
thing
kind of
happened to
vibe.
me too. It's the same thing. It's like like we were talking about before. It's like you don't realize, and then like we start talking because like we knew each other as like acquaintances for like a while, and then when we start picking up and like really talking, it's like, oh, we're good luck. We're not stopping. We're not stopping.
Exactly. And the thing is, we all like to bring each other good vibes and everything because, I
Yeah.
think that's the thing that, what's the funniest thing, which you can probably attest to this. Sometimes I feel like content creators, at least to a certain degree, it feels like you have to sort of. It's like you're trying to bond with everybody, but let me be real. Not everybody is going to be like, I'm in the level that you vibe with. Like, it's okay. You
Yes.
cannot
Yeah.
always vibe with people. But if you
Yeah.
bring some good vibes and positivities and at least show like a genuine interest or show like a good back and forth, then of course, a friendship builds over time, which
Yep.
is,
Oh yeah.
again, I see like there's like some people that I had in the past, but they ask, "Oh, let me collaborate with this, or can I, use your clip for this?" And I go, "Listen, I do appreciate the thought, but unfortunately, I don't know you well enough to know to
Yep.
allow you to do
Oh
that." And they go,
yeah.
"Oh, but why not? Because it would help out with the
Well,
views, bro." I never cared about views.
it's
I
not
only
about
cared.
that. It's not
Yeah,
about that. The thing is, like, you gotta make sure you vibe well with the person, because otherwise, the content's not gonna be entertaining, and you're not gonna have fun. Because that's the biggest thing for me is like, I wanna collab with people I know that I'm gonna have fun with, and that I feel comfortable with, right? Like that's the biggest thing, because I see that all the time. So many people, they're like, "Can I collab with you? Can I do this?" I'm like, well, here's the thing, like, especially with people you don't know, they're just gonna come out of nowhere and ask you, and you're like, well, let's be real. I don't know you, and I don't know if like we're gonna have a good time on a collab, because it's work making a collab, right? Like,
exactly. It's like, you know what it is? It's like if you randomly ask some random guy in a supermarket if you want to play a Mario Party or something, and they'd be like, "Bro, I don't even know you. Why
yeah,
the hell are you even inviting me over to play
exactly.
Mario Party? That's weird." But it's like if you invite your friends or your family to it, then I'm like, yeah, that makes sense because
Hell
there's
yeah,
a genuine bond and a genuine, like level of establishment
yeah.
communication there. Like that makes way more sense.
Oh
I
yeah.
had a few people in my life that literally tried to quote collab, but it was more like they were trying to take advantage of me because of the
Yeah.
fact that I was like a growing thing. Even like this was like super early years, mind you.
Yeah, yeah.
And I go to myself, you do realize I do fighting games, right? What exactly is it that you want? Oh, I want to be able to promote this, this awesome, cool new music. Okay, okay, okay. See, this is
That's
where
not
you're
the
gonna have to
point.
stop. I'm like, I go, okay, well, hang on. I go to myself saying, hang on, you need to wait a second. First of all, I don't do music, okay? Like, I don't do music. You must be thinking of somebody else because unless I'm doing a mixed remix of Ryu somehow screaming with his death KOs or like Akuma doing like some weird noise and there's a Tatsumaki, I'm not a musician. Oh,
Okay,
I
let's be
mean,
real. That would be kind of funny.
that would be funny, but it would be like just for fun and giggles. I'm not trying to promote like a
Yeah.
SoundCloud rapper because I kid you
Yeah.
not, when I went to Vegas, I with my friend Jeff, there was this guy that literally was just asking my friend, "Oh, if you can put this at Evo so you can promote the music." What do you think
Oh
we're
my
going to?
goodness.
What do you think we're going to? We're not going to a club or to a party. It's a tournament. Oh yes, I would love to play your whack ass SoundCloud mix that
Oh
sounds
my
so
god.
terrible that I'm gonna put this in my Evo promote. Oh yeah, what do you want me to do next?
Yeah.
Want me to go to you want me to go into the main stage and just play this music? Like no, don't be like those guys
Oh
where
my
they
god.
spray painted like they spray painted like I don't know tomato or oil on the screens because they're like you're trying to promote a cause. Like again, you want to do this? Go to the avenue you're supposed to. If they don't like you,
Exactly.
and they don't like you, period.
It's so true.
Oh man. I really do like the back and forth you and I have with this. This was a really fun
Yeah,
interaction.
me
And not
freaking
just
too.
I'm really glad that you were really here today with today's podcast. And so I'm going to conclude this podcast session today. So I want to thank you guys. All right, before I end this, again, I'm going to remind you guys Desolate, Children of Gaia. Wait, it is Children of Gaia, right?
Yeah, it
Okay.
is. It
No
like
worries.
cut out for a second.
Yeah, so I need you guys to check out Desolate Children of Gaia. Again, really worth to look into. And of course, take a look at Sanashi's Twitch streams. She does a lot of streaming on Twitch. I think there's like a way that you can showcase anybody who's new what's your schedule like and everything, right?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, there's a little thing on my channel it says, and I stream at the same times, on the same days every week. So
Sweet. And as well as her YouTube. And honestly, just follow all of her socials. You're not, like, if you see screaming and a lot of, like, crazy moments and chaotic moments, yeah, this is definitely Sanashi, alright?
yeah, I like digging my own grave, honestly. So unintentionally too.
We've all been there, trust me. This is also coming from someone where I'm just trying to do a thing and my family would constantly, make fun of me on the whole. Oh, hey, remember that time that you thought you were gonna win at Mario Party, but then I just stole it from you? Great times, right?
Ah,
Or
yeah.
or the time that my mom was whenever my mom ever talked about like a few things when it comes to like a few other family moments, she would ask me to make a specific noise and it would just be like, hey, make the noise when like your cousin or like one of your or like any of your family members when they go to a nightclub. And I'm like, oh come on, not this again, come on, just do it, fine. So whenever they go to a nightclub, it always sounds like
Oh yeah. I'm right
and I
there
go,
with you.
I'm like, I constantly give them moments to work with, and I'm like, am I just,
Oh yeah.
am I, Jesus.
It's like, am I really? It's like, they're like, are you really that dumb? That's what my family always says. I'm like, God, man, give me some credit. Like, oh my god. My brother,
You
I
know?
said something dumb as hell last time I was playing Dragon Quest 11, and I was in the like casino part, and I was just sitting there, and I won the jackpot, and then right after I won like the consolation prize, and I look at the screen, I'm like, oh yeah, I was screwing with my brother. I was like, oh yeah, I won the constellation prize, and my brother just looked at me like, oh my god, are you really my sister? I'm like, I'm sorry, you know what I meant.
Oh man, I feel like I said the same thing, but with like, well, not the same thing. It's like I said the same when I was trying to say paloma, but instead I called it pauma. It's like a
Yeah,
Spanish name for pigeon. So,
my god, I
oh,
feel
man.
you.
Alrighty, and with that, we conclude today's podcast. So, this has been Shockroller, and
Yeah.
we thank you all so much for joining in today's podcast. So, real PSA, I'm not sure when the heck are we going to be doing any more podcast stuff. Not because I don't want to, but mostly because I'm taking a little small break. But if I happen to do another one, oh, trust me, I'm not stopping. I'm just taking a break. But you will see more collabs from me, Shi, Kage, Dana, or in this case, Star Blossom, Novi Arts, Eclipse 13, well, 0313, Skull Ronin, and Seven Force. And again, I could say like the names of everybody else, but come on, that'd be revealing too much of a secret. Or would it be? But for real, we got a lot more stuff cooking up as time goes on. But until then, this is Shockroller and Shiinashi signing off. Take care, everybody!